Greetings. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. We are on the eve, so to speak, figuratively anyway, of the World Meeting of Families next week in Philadelphia. Debbie and I will be there. Take Two show will be there. EWTN, a lot of EWTN broadcasts. The network will have a booth. We will have a booth for my company, Third Millennium Media, my apostolate vocation boom. So, Debbie, we are going to be at World Meeting next week, and in anticipation of that, we've got a really exciting and informative show for our listeners today.
Yeah, today is Meet the Real Pope Francis, and so this is your opportunity to hear all about our Holy Father, maybe ask a question or even a comment you may have, or maybe you went over to Rome and you got to see the Holy Father yourself, and what was that experience what did it feel like? Because we're going to be feeling that next week in Philadelphia, and it's an exciting time for Catholic Christians, especially here in America, to have our Holy Father visit, and this is your opportunity. So jump in, share your take, share your experience about this. Oh my goodness, Jerry, I think he's on every cover at the newsstands. Our Holy Father is the most popular Pope. Amazing. 1-800-585-9396.
All right, any question that you have about our current Holy Father, who he is, what he's thinking, what he's saying, what he's doing. We have the Year of Mercy coming up, but we've had the Year for Consecrated Life. There is just so much to discuss, and you may have your own take, your own opinion on Pope Francis, or a question. We're going to have a special guest with us for the entire hour. So again, our phone number is 1-800-585-9396. You may have heard of Father Michael Collins. Perhaps you've seen his book. It's an outstanding book, actually. It's called Pope Francis, A Photographic Portrait of the People's Pope. And this is put together by Father Michael Collins. And Debbie, before I introduce Father, you actually have a copy of the book. You rave about it.
I do. I'm holding it right now. It is extremely heavy. It is beautifully bound. I have it in my living room, and it is such a conversation starter. It's so funny, Jerry, because anyone that walks into my living room immediately picks it up and says, "What is this?" and starts flipping through. It has the most beautiful photographs, and it really does give you a very kind of a unique look into the Holy Father and his life. And the photographs were taken, I believe, well, Father Michael will share, it's a day-to-day life of Pope Francis in a year in his ministry. And I think this is just a fascinating book to have. You can also look at it on take2show.com. We had posted all about that there. And you can also, if you want to purchase it, you can get it on the EWTN religiouscatalog.com.
All right, again, the phone number, 1-800-585-9396. You've got really an expert on Pope Francis on the line, so what would you like to ask Father Michael Collins, who is I'm going to read his bio here, and Father, when you come on, you're going to have to clean up my messes here, because there's a lot of stuff in Ireland here that I may mispronounce, but he's a native of Glenageary in South County, Dublin. After secondary education at St. Conleth's College, Clyde Road, he studied theology at the Diocesan Seminary of Holy Cross and history, Greek and Roman civilization and philosophy at University College Dublin. And then after ordination, Father Collins served in 2 parishes before following postgraduate studies in Rome at the Pontifical Institute of Christian Archaeology. And he has since taught in a number of universities, and also over the past few years continued to write books and regular columns. And as we said, he is the author of the wonderful pictorial book, Pope Francis, A Photographic Portrait of the People's Pope. Father Michael Collins, thank you for being with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. I'm greeting you from Boston, and I believe it's the birthday of the city, so it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Father Michael, I was sharing a little earlier about that. I have your book, and it is so beautiful. I mean, it's almost, you almost don't want to even open it because it's so gorgeous. I mean, it's just heavy, and it's just a perfect book to add to your household, and to have people, flip through it, look at the different portraits, kind of get an intimate glimpse of what our Pope is in his ministry, what he's kind of viewing, and how other people are viewing him. It is extraordinarily done, Father. Well done. I mean, amazing.
Thank you very much. You're very kind to say that, and I appreciate it very much. I guess the reason I thought of doing this book was because there are many, many books out, biographies of Pope Francis, but at this stage, and I even wrote one with Liturgical Press at the beginning. It was the first book out in English, in fact. It was pretty skimpy, only 144 pages. But we find we're all repeating the same words, the same ideas, we're treading the same water. So what I thought would be nice, in particular for the visit coming up of the Holy Father in a couple of days' time, through Cuba and up to America, would be to take photographic albums. So we devised it with the Pope's official photographer at the Felici studio, and they've been in business for 150 years, 160 years, I guess, so they know what they're doing. This is the fifth generation. And we divided the book into four parts. The first was a little pictorial biography of the young Jorge Mario Bergoglio. The second part was from the moment of the abdication of Pope Benedict, and we photographs of the large chamber in which he made his announcement to the cardinals gathered on the 11th of February of 2013. Then through the cardinals being called to Rome for the conclave, the moment when the smoke comes out and lets people know that at last they've elected the Pope, even though it only took 2 days. And then the inauguration, the Pope's first Mass, etc. Then the main part of the book is, as you see, the bulk of the book is a year in the life of the Pope. So typically what he does, now for Catholics most of this will be familiar, but even Catholics are finding there's lots of things they did not know that the Pope does throughout the year. And then the last part of the book, having gone January each month through to December, then the last part of the book is a view of some of the international trips outside Rome and Italy which he's made.
Father Michael Collins with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. We have open phone lines here, some calls being screened right now. Our number is 1-800-585-9396. Father's book, Pope Francis, a photographic portrait of the people's Pope. It's chock full of pictures, but I'm sure in his research and putting the book together, Father Michael has really come to know this Pope in an intimate way. So as we prepare for the World Meeting of Families next week, our Holy Father's historic first visit to the United States, what questions are on your mind or heart about the people's Pope? 1-800-585-9396.
And Father, I just wanted to, I was somewhat joking, but not really. When I said you don't even want to open the book because I don't want people's fingerprints on the beautiful portraits you have here. I have to tell you, it is absolutely amazing. Each one, Father, could be framed. Each picture, the Felici family, they're amazing photographers. I mean, this is extraordinary work.
Well, that's the truth. And also, you see, there's two sets of official photographers, one that does the newspaper and then the studio Felici. And they have two things. One, they walk beside the Pope, literally 2 or 3 feet away from him. Mm-hmm. So they record everything he's doing. And then people who get the chance of meeting with the Holy Father, if they want a souvenir photograph, they call by the studio and they organize it to collect it. And, of course, they've got an amazing access, if you like, of the Pope. And he really has become, I think, the social media Pope, because I noticed that everybody, in particular in the States, I'm here on a 21-day book tour, which I'd never guessed. If I'd known when I was going to do this time last year when I started the book, if I'd known it would have really been a carrot, because I'm just having the time of my life. Yeah. But it's wonderful. And I think the Pope is being taken up by the media, which is largely favorable to him. And in fact, I think I've noticed, and I've been, as you say, I've been working with journalism for about 30 years or more. And one thing I've noticed is journalists find it very, very difficult to criticize the present Pope because he's so spontaneous, he's so transparent, and the themes which he has taken up, care for the poor, care for the marginalized, people who feel excluded from the Catholic Church, or indeed from any church, or from any portion of humanity, and people who are migrants, refugees, people who are in any form of difficulty, they feel they've got a champion in the Pope. So therefore journalists have been very, very careful. And I've been reading the American press over the last few days, and I've noticed there's a very distinct change in tone, because many journalists who I think journalists, and I can say this almost as a kind of not a professional journalist, but a kind of a play journalist, we can sit behind ivory towers knowing that we can write our stuff and then nobody's going to get back at us apart from a few letters through the paper or a few comments on the web page that nobody reads. But journalists generally have been impressed with the Pope, and they find that they are resonating with his themes.
Father Michael Collins is with us, and he'll be talking with you when you join us by phone at 800-585-9396. Meet the real Pope Francis. Next week, of course, is the World Meeting of Families. And this is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Our number, 1-800-585-9396. Any question whatsoever about Pope Francis, anything that he has said, written, done, who he is, what his themes are, his messages, his emphases on the poor and mercy and so forth. Again, 800-585-9396. Father Michael, it seems like with most popes, people are able to kind of say, okay, he's sort of this type of pope, known for this. Pope Benedict, Pope John Paul, they sort of get kind of pigeonholed. But what is your take on Pope Francis? Seems like nobody can really wrap their mind around, what he's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true, actually. And there are some themes, however, that we've been able to identify because he keeps on repeating them. I remember when the election to replace Pope Benedict was taking place, the cardinals all had the chance of speaking for a moment or two before each other. There was 115 electors going into the Sistine Chapel, and they more or less said all the same things. And Cardinal Bergoglio made one interesting point. He said, the church really should only be a bit like the moon, just reflecting the light of the sun. It doesn't have light within itself. So really what we need to do is go out into the margins, into the periphery of society. And initially the cardinals thought he just meant go out to the suburbs or to the slum areas, which they reckoned there's a lot of slums with almost 700,000 people around the city of Buenos Aires. They thought that's what he meant. But now we've discovered, in fact, he was saying go out into the virtual peripheries, the people on the margins, those who feel ostracized because of their orientation, their political situation, their economic situation, their race, their wealth or their lack of wealth, all those people who feel just uncomfortable and not welcome in the mass of society. So he's made a few things his own, and one of them, since he's become Pope, has been this whole area of human trafficking, which he calls modern-day slavery. It's an industry which I believe is worth $36 billion per annum to pirates, to unscrupulous people who are pushing people from one place to the other. We've seen it in the Mediterranean, pirates who are unscrupulously taking money from people, putting them in unseaworthy vessels and pushing them across the Mediterranean. Many of them sink, a lot are drowning, and as Pope Francis says, they're turning the Mediterranean into a cemetery, into a graveyard. So that's one thing that he's very keen on. And the second thing he's very keen on is the whole linked area of climate change. And as you know, he wrote this document, Laudato Si, in June of this past year. And he put it very bluntly. He said, we know that climate change exists because there's radiation from the sun, the core of the planet is heating, etc. But also humans have to take a certain amount of responsibility as well for that. So, there are themes which are coming out, and they're really impressive.
Well, Father Michael, we're going to have to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll start to maybe see what calls are ready. But I have a question for you when we come back from the break, Father. It's about the Holy Father's demeanor and his personality, and I'm hoping that you can answer it because I'm curious. I'm a people watcher, and I love to watch his mannerisms, and it's interesting to try to figure out what he's really like behind closed doors. So I want to ask you that when we come back from the break. Dear listeners, this is your opportunity. It's Meet the Real Pope Francis. We've got Father Michael Collins with us the whole entire hour. He's the author of a photographic portrait of the People's Pope. This is your time, your opportunity. Call in at 1-800-585-9396. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break.
I begin every day asking God for help. I ask the Holy Spirit to show me the way. As journalists, we have a responsibility. As Catholic journalists, we have an even greater one. That's why I do this, because it's so much more than just news, sports, and weather. It's Christ-centered conversation.
Morning Glory with Brian Patrick. Weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern. Streaming online and heard worldwide on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I didn't take my faith seriously, which probably means I never really got it to begin with. No, I didn't want to give up sin. The reason we sin is because sin is fun. But it's self-love sin. But it's amazing with God's grace how easy trying to not sin it really is.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Our guest, Father Michael Collins. He has written a book that you really ought to try to get a copy of, and you can in the EWTN Religious Catalog. I think it's EWTNReligiousCatalog.com, and it's called Pope Francis. It is basically, it's a wonderful pictorial book about the life of Pope Francis, who he is. These are really rare, I think previously unpublished photos. So check it out in the EWTN Religious Catalog. Debbie, I know you had something you mentioned going into the break. I do, Father. So, he's born into an Italian family in Argentina. So my question is does he have, you always see him smiling. He seems very lighthearted. Even when he's very solemn, he has a peaceful look on his face. Does he have a temper?
Oh, no. There's a very good question. And I'm glad to report the answer is yes. Because friends of mine who work with him, they say that he has a very quick Latino temper. Apparently, that's a good sign. It's not an insult at all.
Right.
And when you think of it, he's 78 at the moment, going on 79 on the 17th of December of this year. So, in a sense, he's a man with a hurry. He's been there 2 years. He's a lot of projects he wants to get through. And for example, this is just one example. When they were examining the whole issue of how to clean up the annulments process, which had become so covered with the legalities and difficulties, etc. The people who were working on the legal side of it, they were slow, and the Pope really shot them a rocket and said, we're trying to get this done this century, not next century. So he certainly has got a temper, and I think that's probably a good sign in a leader. That's how he works. He tries to get people to come along with him, but if they're not pulling their weight, well, then they'll get a fire of a rocket.
Wow.
Okay,
awesome.
well, go ahead.
I was just going to say Italians have a temper too, can have a temper too,
well,
Father.
That's
so
true. So I think he's got a double whammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Of course, remember, his father came over with siblings and his parents in 1929. They came over to the New World, as it was, Argentina, and they settled there. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was born within a year, he's born the first of 5 children, and he just has one sibling left, his sister, with whom he's still very close, and today he just has to speak with by telephone. But he's the son of migrants, and that's how he learned such good Italian. And I was always fascinated. I said to my friends, how come he speaks so perfectly? And the reason, apparently, is that his grandmother took him when he was a few months old, and she would take care of the young little Jorge. He was obviously the golden-haired kid as far as she was concerned. And he is, to this very day, very attached to her memory. He speaks about her a lot. In fact, I notice he quotes her much more than he mentions his own mother, which is kind of curious. But he's got a terrific Italian flair for the whole family. For him, family means great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, right down to the great-great-great-great-great-grandnieces and nephews, and then all the cousins, once removed, twice removed, 3 times removed, totally removed. That's the kind of family that Pope Bergoglio believes in, and that's why it's going to be interesting when he goes to the World Families Day in Philadelphia. He's going to feel very, very much at home because it's a theme which is very close to his heart. He believes the family is such an important part of society, but also as a Christian leader and as the Pope, he proposes the family as the result of the sacrament of marriage. Therefore, we see the family as Christians and as Catholics, not simply as Catholics, not simply as a sociological unit, but something which is blessed by God through the sacrament of marriage.
That's Father Michael Collins. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Time to go to your calls. Thanks for your patience, those of you on hold. I see we do have a phone line open, just one line if you'd like to join us, 1-800-585-9396. Your takes, your questions, your comments, maybe even your concerns or criticisms about Pope Francis or anything he said or done. If you've got any of those, we'd love to have you join the program, and we'll help you in any way we can. We're going to start with Inez in Fall River, Massachusetts, not too far from where Father Michael is. He's in Boston today. So, Inez, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You're on the air. How are you?
Well, thank you. Welcome
Good.
to Massachusetts, Father.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.
Well, we belong to the Teams of Our Lady, which is a marriage ministry.
Yes.
I'm very happy to say that we've just returned from a private audience with Pope Francis just last weekend.
Oh, cool.
Yes, he addressed our ministry because we are international, and all 7 continents were actually present at this audience with Pope Francis.
And how did you find him? Was he in good form?
He was. He was very cheerful, very welcoming, and very gracious. He was an amazing. He was an amazing supporter of our ministry, which he asked us to pray for families who have been wounded by abortion, who have been wounded by divorce, and to embrace them and pray for them, as well as the synod that's coming up.
Yes, and I think this is one of the great things we can do is pray for the Pope. I notice every time he meets anybody, absolutely anybody, he finishes off his greeting by saying, "Pray for me." And it's not just an empty formula. He needs prayers. You know, there's a lot of people who don't wish him well, a lot of people who prefer if things had been left the way they were in the past. He certainly is making a big impact on the Church. And I think he's aware that he needs the support of everybody in the Christian family. And he feels himself, he talks about Pope Benedict as a grandfather type. I think he sees himself as a grandfather as well. He enjoys looking after his people. His sister, Maria Elena, said that when he was elected, he's been saying to her all the time since he's been elected, "I don't know where I'm getting this energy from." And he's very pleased with that, which is wonderful as well to see that in a person.
Inez, I have heard of Teams of Our Lady before, but maybe if you want to take about 30 to 60 seconds and just let our listeners know what it is, I think it sounds like an important ministry in the Church.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Teams of Our Lady is composed of couples sacramentally married. It's 5 to 7 couples compose a team. And each month we have a list of endeavors which consists of prayer, conjugal spirituality between husband and wife. The endeavors include a sit-down once a month, which allows couples to really have an open dialogue in the presence of God as his guidance. And also it allows couples to open their hearts and their homes to the other couples once a month to have a meeting where the daily word is studied and discussed with the presence of a spiritual counselor, which is usually a priest, although in the United States more uncommon because of our lack of priest vocation. But we meet monthly and share a simple meal and discuss our life's challenges in society and in the marriage.
Wow, Inez, that sounds like an amazing ministry. Great work you're doing. We're so glad that you shared that with us and explained it to all of our listeners. We just want to also, you hear that music, we're going to have to take a quick, hard break, Inez, but thank you so much for calling in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and making your comments to Father Michael Collins. We have Father Michael Collins with us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get to more of your calls on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Stay with us.
What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic?
Why can't women become priests?
I don't understand why I have to earn salvation.
How is it possible that God created everything?
Why do I need to confess my sins to a priest?
Why is the Catholic Church so unwilling to
The Catholic Church is too rich.
Catholics worship Mary and are committed.
As far as I'm concerned, all religions are equal.
You are called to communion with Dr. David Anders. Today, 2 p.m. Eastern, on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hi, this is John, and I'm lucky to be a Catholic. Some kids always wonder what is right and wrong and are willing to try things they really shouldn't. My family's Catholic. We go to Mass every week. We read the Bible, and it's pretty easy for us to decide what to do. We just ask ourselves, what would Jesus do? My mom and dad love listening to Catholic radio. They say it helps them understand their faith and helps them to make the right choices. Thanks, Catholic Radio.
I don't have money to travel, but I can travel the world on EWTN, and I do. God bless each of you. I love traveling the world on EWTN.
If you have a comment about our programming, we'd love to hear from you too. Call 205-795-5773 or send us an email to radio@EWTN.com. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Hi, this is Joan Lewis. In my work here at the Vatican, I'm blessed to speak with all kinds of people every day, from visitors to Rome, to Vatican officials, even to the Pope. And every week on our EWTN program, Vatican Insider, I'll share their stories with you. We'll bring you the latest news from Rome. We'll talk with Vatican leaders and newsmakers, and we'll answer your questions. So don't miss Vatican Insider this weekend, right here on the EWTN Radio Network. For times in your area, go to EWTN.com and click on Radio.
Thanks for being with us. Take two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Anna, we'll get to you in just a second here. Bill is in New Jersey. We've got lines open talking about the real Pope Francis. What is your question, comment, take, concern, criticism? Weigh in with whatever you want at 800-585-9396. As we mentioned at the start of the show, Debbie and I will be with the whole EWTN crew at the World Meeting of Families next week, and we're going to do a week of family-related programs. Just real quick here. Monday, what is a family? We're going to look just very basically, what does the nature, natural law, the church law, divine law, what was God's design? What is a family supposed to look like? It's not an easy question to answer, at least for some people in today's world. So on Tuesday, we're going to look at the dynamics of large families. Wednesday, the blessings of adoption and foster care. Thursday, the family under attack. And Friday, we're going to celebrate the family with your uplifting stories about your family and family life. So looking forward, Debbie, to a great week of shows next week.
I'm excited about that. But you know what's really making me really happy right now? It just makes me feel so comforted, Father Michael, that our Holy Father may have a quick temper. Now I don't feel so bad. I have a little I have a little bit of a quick temper, but I want to know too, Father, does he also have a quick wit about him? What's his humor like?
Oh, well, he does, yes. Now, one of the things about him, he apparently can be quite insulting when he says these things, because, you see, he talks off the top of his head. He doesn't stop and filter it. He doesn't go through his media guys and have them say, you can say this, you can't say this. He said one time about nuns, he said, some of you look like air stewardess faces. They're so, artificial. Well, that insulted air stewardesses, nuns, etc. He didn't mean it like that. And then he said on another occasion, somebody looked as if they'd swallowed a lemon. They'd such a sour face. He said, that's not good for Christians. On another occasion, he said about priests who are vain, he said, they're like peacocks. They look wonderful when they're coming towards you, but when they go past you and you turn around to look at them, well, he said, then you get another view. So, you could get offended, but most of us, we just laugh, and they're kind of down-to-earth expressions. When you think of it, in the past, the Pope was a monarch. He was the last absolute non-elected, non-hereditary monarch, I should say, not non-elected, hereditary monarchy in the world. Now we've got somebody who's very down-to-earth, the son of Italian migrants, living in Argentina, now back and pastor of the Universal Church in the Vatican in Rome. And he has got a good impish sense of humor. And I sometimes think of him, I wonder when he wakes up in the morning, does he just come out of bed and say, who am I going to annoy this morning? Who am I going to get up their skin this morning? Because he really does want to change things. And the Vatican, I have to say from my experience over the years, is a place that changes very slowly. Molasses would drip more quickly than the Vatican. That can be a good thing, of course, because that means that they don't change with every time the wind blows. Right. But at the same time, it can be something which can stultify growth. And that's why when you get Pope Francis coming in with this big, broad grin, and I often think that Pope Francis is a cartoonist delight because he's these wonderful eyebrows, this huge, big, broad face, and I often wonder if they come around to doing a movie of him, who would they get to play the various actors? And the one that I would think I would have of Pope Francis at this time would be the actor Jonathan Pryce. I just saw him in the movie Gold recently, and he plays a judge in that. And, you just skim off the hair, and he's got the same eyes, eyebrows, smile. I think he'd be great in a buy-up of Pope Francis.
This
is absolutely would.
Yeah, this is too cool. I love this show today. This is amazing. Okay, so Father, we're going to move right along to Anna or Anna. Correct us which way to pronounce it in Rochester, New York. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and our guest, Father Michael Collins.
Oh, hello. Thank you for taking my call. So my question might be a little controversial. I respect, the Pope's dedication towards the more simple values of our church, such as the poor and caring for the poor and respecting all people. But in theory, all of those practices have been part of our faith since I've been born. And they were the same practices, even though Pope Benedict wasn't that vocal about it, but, Pope John Paul or St. John Paul was, vocal about those things. One of my concerns is that you can see the Pope trying to tiptoe around sensitive issues. Annulments, I agree. I know many people who couldn't get annulments because of one diocese, and if they traveled 70 miles the other direction, they could have gotten an annulment. It wasn't a consistent practice how it was done. So I respect some of those changes. Where I become a bit frustrated is that obviously there's a shortage of priests, and it seems as though the church is directing itself in a way where deacons are now going to become a supplement to a priest, even to the point where it appears to me that deacons are almost elevated above, I'll call the religious nuns. And when I say that, it's very typical in many churches when you go and they're praying for the Pope and your local bishop and then your priest, and then they'll pray for the deacon, and then they pray for sort of everybody else, and I guess that encompasses sisters. I'm not a sister. I'm not, my frustration is that, I believe that the church is more, it's a chauvinistic group. I mean, its structure is chauvinistic. Now, having said that, I'm a practicing Catholic because I believe in the sacraments and the beauty of the sacraments. But I really want to know when we're going to get to a point when I look at so many sisters who taught me in high school and grade school and who have so much knowledge, I would rather listen to a sermon from them than from a deacon, from my neighbor who was married with all these kids and now he's a deacon. I'm just
Anna, if you can, Anna, I'm sorry. Your points are, I think, very valid. If you can just kind of summarize it real quickly in a kind of a nugget of a question, we'll let Father Michael share some thoughts with you.
The question is kind of when will we get to a point to understand what will be the role of religious women in the church, where it will be a broadened role, where it will be broadened more and be more influential in the church.
Yeah, I agree with that question, and I see exactly where you're coming from. Last December, Pope Francis had a group of theologians for their annual meeting of a society, And he said to them, one of the things which was lacking was the presence of women. He said, at the moment, they're like strawberries on the top of the cake. There's only a few of them. Now, unfortunately, I saw a journalist, a lady journalist, write an article which had completely misunderstood what the Pope had said. And the reason was because she had forgotten to read the text of what he'd said. She'd just taken one line. He actually was saying it was wrong. At the moment, there was only a few people in these commissions. But when you think of it, I remember reading a survey one time which said that the most theologically prepared and best qualified people in the American church are in fact generally female, either religious or lay people. And that's something which we've got to take on board. And I think that's certainly an issue that the church is going to have to continue addressing over the next number of years. It's true to say that if you look back 50 or even 100 years ago, make it simple, 100 years ago, when in many countries women did not have a vote, women had a very different place in society. It's only over this past century that has changed, and the whole idea of equality for women has come to the fore. And I certainly hope, this is my fervent hope, that we would have what you're proposing and saying, a broadening. But believe me, in Ireland we have very few deacons. It hasn't really got off the ground yet. We've only just introduced them in the last 3 or 4 years. And some of the deacons are already such an improvement of some of the priests who are talking. So I see what you're saying. You know, the more people we have involved, the broader it is, the more interesting it's going to be.
Is that helpful, Anna?
I just think it's an important aspect, and I appreciate this program. It's very helpful, very good. So thank you, and enjoy your travels here.
Thank you so much. A pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for the call. I just want to weigh in very quickly on this, and I certainly can, I echo everything that you said, Father. And this past week, actually, and through yesterday, Monday through yesterday, I have a ministry called Vocation Boom. We promote priestly vocations. And we've been in St. Louis at the National Conference of Diocesan Vocation Directors. By the way, we interviewed 2 fine priests from Ireland. They'll be on an upcoming radio show of ours on EWTN. But there were a number of women religious groups that were exhibiting at this Vocation Directors Conference, and which is really typically all about priestly vocations. And Father, we got to interview a number of them, and their joy at serving as sisters and being in support of the priesthood. I think this is an aspect of women's religious life that we really, I think, need to emphasize, and that is the support. And, they say behind every great man is a great woman, and we really do need religious sisters and brothers to be strong in order for the priesthood to be strong.
Well, yes, but I think also we could say behind every good woman is a good man. I think certainly the world is changing very, very quickly. And while we have our structures which are given by the Lord, which are 2,000 years old as well, there are new ways of doing things. I often think of St. Matthew's Gospel, where the Lord says, take out of your storeroom things which are old and things which are new. And although I was always very conservative and traditionalist when I was young, the older I get, I find it strangely to say, I find I'm getting more progressive and open-minded. Maybe that's a good or a bad thing, but it means that I'm not shocked by anything. I'm not kind of surprised by anything, but I love being taken by surprise when good things like this happen.
Well said. Well said. Okay, we're going to move right along. We're trying to get to all the calls today, Father. Our listeners call in very quickly, and Jerry and I try our hardest to get to every single person. So we're going to move right along to Bill in New Jersey, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Bill. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and our special guest, Father Michael Collins.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, and hello to Father Collins.
Hello, how are you?
Very, very good, Father. It's kind of a question, I guess, about Pope Francis and about Ireland, so you seem like the ideal person to ask it. I'm an American Catholic who, I'm not an Irish American, but I lived in Ireland recently for a good stretch of years. I do business there a lot, so I travel back and forth. I had small kids with me when I lived in Ireland. My observation, and I'll make it as scientific as possible, is that the state of the church in Ireland is probably safe to say in utter disarray. I found the level of doctrinal and religious literacy to be almost nil. I found catechetical preparation of my kids for their first confessions and first communions was shockingly almost bordered on the bizarre at times. I wasn't sure what religion they were teaching my kids. I found that the culture to be hostile to the national broadcaster is more hostile to Catholicism than you'd ever find on a left-wing station in the U.S. or even the BBC. So I found it a very difficult climate coming as an American Catholic from a very strong church and from a church that's fed by things like EWTN to walk into, the state of the Catholic Church in Ireland. So I guess, and I've seen yourself actually as a person who's brought in as a commentator on RTE on occasion and stuff, and I really appreciated your presence when it appeared to bring some kind of sanity to some of the discussions on the national broadcaster in Ireland. The Francis effect and the Irish Church. On the one hand, from a public point of view, they seem to want to portray Francis as he's the guy that's going to give us this Catholic Church with abortions, women priests, and married same-sex people, and all this. He's going to be Pope Elton John. I mean, that would be the way that the left-wing media kind of seems to be portraying him. And that's, of course, not true. But what's happening on the ground in Ireland with Pope Francis? Is his message getting through, and is it helping Ireland kind of, I guess, recatechize itself and heal itself a little? Would be my.
Well,
I hope I wasn't too harsh. I was trying to be fair about it. I love Ireland. So
on the contrary, I'm so pleased to hear you saying all of that because I agree with you 100%. I think there's two things we need to keep in mind. Until the 1960s, we had a very rigid hierarchical church for historical reasons, which had become more Rome than the Roman Church itself, and that was through Cardinal Cullen setting up this new formula in the 1870s in Dublin and throughout the Irish Church. That's one thing. That was suddenly swept away. The Second Vatican Council, the uprisings of 1968, then the political situation we found ourselves in North and South. But I agree with you, something, and I've never been able to fully understand it, something happened in the 80s, 90s, and there came this huge backlash against the Catholic Church. And I was always fascinated, how did it come about? Because the majority of people were educated in schools which were at least patronized by the Church, even if they were not what we call Catholic schools. Then we had an enormous number of Jesuit schools, Holy Ghost, Spirit and Fathers. Who else did we have? We had Presentation Sisters, Daughters of Mercy. We had all these religious schools, and they were, doing incredible work. A lot of it for a pittance. There wasn't much monetary appreciation, but these were people who had a vocation to teach, and they put themselves. I had an uncle, for example, who was a Marist in education all his life, and he lived in one small little room in a religious house, and he was as happy as the day is long. But I'm absolutely in agreement with you. There's extraordinary hostility to the Church in Ireland. And when I've been here now in the States for 2 weeks, and believe me, I came on a book tour to promote this book on Pope Francis. But this has been a spiritual holiday for me because I meet people who are so well disposed towards the Church, both Catholics and non-Catholics. I've been on the phone for the last hour to an evangelical show, the Josh Tolley show. There's so much respect for our Christian heritage and faith, and that's something which has been almost demolished in Ireland. And I agree with you exactly. What the Irish are looking for is Pope Elton John. Unfortunately, that's the way. And you're also right when you say the bottom line, and the reason for it is there is no catechetical presentation. The kids don't know what to believe because they're not taught very much in schools. And even in the schools where there has been Catholic patronage, I have to say, with all due respect, and I hope there's no Catholic teachers who hear a rebroadcast of this, but many of them don't live up to their Christian vocation.
Father Michael, we shared with you that our listeners have some great questions and great comments, just like Bill from New Jersey. So we just want to thank you, Bill, for calling in and sharing your take on this subject today of meeting the real Pope Francis, especially how it relates to Ireland. So we want to thank you for that. We're going to move right along to Timothy in Springfield, Oregon. Timothy, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and our guest, Father Michael Collins.
Yes. Hello, Father Michael.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. I'd like you to comment on Pope Francis's leanings towards socialism. Is it something of a early church a position where all resources went into one pot and everybody benefited?
Well, I think, socialism has a number of different definitions, but if you look back into the New Testament, when the apostles were trying to spread the word, they realized that they also had an obligation to people who were in need. And in the Jewish tradition, widows and orphans had the first call on charity. So what the apostles did was they set up a series of deacons or helpers who were to assist those in material need while they looked after the spiritual needs of people. So I think the emphasis on Pope Francis, an earlier caller made this point as well, is maybe we're turning him into something as a lone ranger that other popes didn't do. Well, Pope Benedict and Pope John Paul II in our recent memory were very keen on this, and they were very, very strong. So I think Pope Francis is really just trying to help us focus our minds on those who are suffering because they don't have enough of the basic needs to live as humans.
How's that, Timothy?
That's very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for calling. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. 1-800-585-9396. I want to turn to Facebook. Barbara actually had a comment similar to that. So, Barbara, I hope that clears up your concern about Pope Francis being a quote-unquote socialist. We also on our YouTube chat, Maury from Oklahoma, I hope I said the name right, Mauri, Maury. Maury says this, Father Michael, we all know what happened the last time the church had control over the state. After all, the Constitution of the United States was established with the principle of separation of church and state. The Pope addressing the Congress would never have happened when JFK was president. Can you comment on this?
Well, unfortunately, I wouldn't know enough about American politics to make an intelligible comment, but I think it is true to say that the separation of church and state is generally a much better thing than having them aligned, because in the past, when they were aligned, from the time of Constantine onwards, it meant there was compromise all the time. So now there's great freedom for the Pope, for example, to come to the States in particular. He's going to address Congress, the United Nations, and people are going to listen to him because they'll feel that he's got a message which is not partisan, it's not coming from any political quarter, but it's coming from a genuine, deep-seated belief in God's Word. And, when you think that Forbes have voted Pope Francis as the fourth most influential person in the world, he doesn't need to have the church behind him. What he has is he's got the belief in Jesus and in God's message, and that's the most important thing. And then it can be channeled through the church into the world.
Well said, Father. Father, I got a quick question for you. I'm just curious. Are you going to be at the exhibit next week at the Marketplace floor for the World Meeting of Families?
Well, okay. I was due to go up to Philadelphia on next Friday, and indeed I think I was due to tape something with the EWTN. But I'm not sure if that's going to work out or not, because the people who are looking after my schedule at the moment are saying that there seems to be a lot of confusion over the Philadelphia days. So I'm hoping that I'll still be able to go to Philadelphia, and if not, I'll be staying on in New York. I'm going to New York tomorrow for a few days. We've got some more events up there when the Holy Father arrives. But I would love to come to Philadelphia. So I've got fingers crossed. I've got my ticket for the train, and I hope I'm going to be able to get there.
Well, I do have a reason for asking, Father, because I was going to bring the book with me to have you sign it, but then I started thinking it would probably go over the weight limit of the luggage, and also
in
I
its
didn't
own
want
suitcase.
in its own and I didn't want to take a chance on ruining it because it's such a masterpiece. So I'll have to have you sign it.
Send me your email address, and I'll send you a personalized letter. I'd be delighted, and I appreciate so much the opportunity. Being on EWTN, which we follow in Ireland, and we're very grateful because, as your former caller said, in Ireland we've no Catholic television or radio station of great merit. Nothing very big in the scale of EWTN. So we're relying on EWTN and Catholic television and Catholic TV for our news.
Wow, thank you.
All right, Father, thank you. I think that we have one more. Do we have enough? Yeah, Tim in Michigan. Tim, real quick, we've got about 90 seconds, but we want to fit you in. We don't like to leave callers, don't get on the line when you call in. So, Tim, you're on with Father Michael Collins. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just had a quick comment about two of the recent callers that were critical of catechetical efforts by the church, and especially the one that called in about his experience in Ireland. I've found that that just almost a little offensive, because the first teachers of the faith should be one's parents, and to be critical of the church there I thought was a little unwarranted. Also, the lady that felt that she wanted more of the presence of women. There's nothing against women, but rather that the teaching of the faith should happen first in the home. And I guess that's my comment.
Father
Well,
Michael?
I think that's very true, and St. John Paul often said that, and Pope Paul VI referred to the family as the domestic home. But it is true, unfortunately, as a sociological fact, that over the last 30 to 40 years within the diocese, our religion classes aren't just getting through to the young people, and unfortunately, I have to agree with our caller who lived in Ireland for a number of years. There's an extraordinary lack of knowledge about the faith, which is really worrying to me for the future generations, because we seem to have lost one generation of parents, and I'm trying to be optimistic, and I hope things will work out in the future, but certainly we have an enormous challenge to face over the next number of years.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Tim, from Marquette, Michigan, for calling in with your comments. And Father, we're getting ready to close out the show. This has been such a delight to be with you. Father Michael Collins, the author of A Photographic Portrait of the People's Pope. Dear listeners, this is a visual masterpiece. You definitely want to go on maybe the EWTN religiouscatalog.com, check it out, maybe purchase it. It would make a great gift. And Father, this has been a delight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your invitation, and I've really enjoyed visiting with you.
Thank you so much. And
right.
what's your takeaway, Jerry?
My takeaway is I can't wait for next week, because it's going to be just a blessed time in Philadelphia during the World Meeting of Families. Did I steal yours?
You did. You stole it. But that's okay.
See, you always say you shouldn't let me go first.
I know, but and God willing, maybe we'll run into Father Michael Collins, and that would be such a delight. And so, dear listeners, join us next week as we explore all the different angles of families during the World Meeting of Families. This is what it's all about. So tune in. Tell your friends about Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Well, this is it. We're wishing you a wonderful weekend. Have a beautiful and blessed weekend. Like us on Facebook. Don't forget that. We'll see you next week in Philadelphia. God bless you.